Can you hear me? Oh, look at us go. There we go. Yeah, there we go. All right, what's up, everybody? We are back. We are back with Liv. I feel like I haven't done a podcast with Liv in forever.
I think it's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
I did with a Christian recently.
I feel like I'm usually better about like harassing everyone in the office. Like, Donnell, come down here and do a podcast.
If there was literally any other living people in the building, they would be doing this.
Yeah, right. We will be doing this with the rats in Baltimore from now on. Because nobody wants to hop on the podcast. And John isn't here today because he had technical difficulties. Real life technical difficulties.
It happens, you know.
Not actually like, I don't know what you call it.
Technical difficulties.
Fake technicals. Anyway, so we were talking a little bit yesterday about how much has changed in Baltimore. Like the eras of real estate past in Maryland in general. And it was just crazy.
Do you understand why this is called this?
No.
Do you read the title?
Back to December.
And then what does it say?
Look back at the eras of real estate.
Okay, does that mean anything to you?
Is T Swizzle coming?
It's a Taylor Swift for us. No, she's not coming to Baltimore. It's just a Taylor Swift reference because Back to December is a song.
Yes,
and then
yes.
posting it in
Oh,
December. And I was like,
it was just the eras thing that got me thinking.
See?
Oh, so creative.
I mean, the more you read, the more references
for you, for y'all
Easter
millennials.
eggs. Now all the children have to read this because there's Taylor Swift Easter eggs in my blog.
Ooh, Easter eggs in the blog. Which, by the way, I didn't catch on to when I read the blog, so be careful. But if you are a T Swizzle, how many references are there?
Oh, I don't even know. More than 10.
Whoa. I just
randomly added them in.
Oh, I know what it is. This is one, right? No? No. Oh, I'm really bad at this. I don't know. Anyway, so we start back at the 70s. There's so much change. We're not even going to talk about it because, to be honest with you, if you want to read more about it, go to our website. Read about it. Yeah. Additional resources. There's a whole bunch of blogs. You can read all about this one and so many others. But where I wanted to start was the 90s.
Sure, we can start at the 90s because that's when I was born.
Right. When were you born?
96.
96. So like halfway through the 90s.
Yeah. I don't even count myself as a 90s kid because I don't remember the 90s.
No, of course not. You weren't a 90s kid.
No memories before I was
You were 5. a cell phone kid, right? Like you were the first generation where the parents were like, I'm not going to give my kid a phone in middle school.
Yeah, right. I had a phone when I was 7.
Right. Like then there were these other families that were like, no, they need it.
Yeah.
And then there was this logic of emergency and security and safety.
Sure.
And now today I'm like, strap that kid a cell phone on their back, right?
Can you put one of those air tags on your children, or is that considered inhumane?
I don't understand
I track
why
my dog with
right?
an air tag.
You track your dog that way.
Yeah.
I actually just replaced Graham's air tag yesterday.
I just replaced my dogs as well.
Note to self: AirTag batteries die.
They die quicker than you would expect.
And the more you use it, the more it dies. Surprisingly, not surprisingly.
Upsetting.
But anyway, so in the 90s. A lot of things were going on in real estate. There was a huge tech boom in the world. Certainly not in Maryland. There wasn't much happening in Maryland. But there was a lot of things going on that were kind of boosting the real estate landscape. And the 90s ended at roughly $110,000, $120,000 average home value.
Okay.
My parents bought their house. I don't know what my mom and dad paid for their joint family house. My mom and my stepdad bought in 91, 92. Something like that.
Sure.
Maybe it was 93. I don't even know. They bought in 90-something for $190,000. I think that was the number. That's actually
kind of a lot for the time.
I mean, it was a brand new house. It was 4-bedroom, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's
blah.
like really nice.
It wasn't super fancy. It was
fancy.
just because you pay a premium for a new house. If you buy a new house today, it's like, $570,000.
Starting at the 6s.
Yeah. Starting at the 6s means you better put a 7 in the beginning of the number, right? Like starting at the 3s is where I want to be so I can actually afford it.
Right.
But my parents bought the starting in the low 100s and they bought the $190,000 house,
that's
you know?
Nice. Yeah.
Which ended up being a huge value for that, and we'll get to that in a minute. But as you turn the corner into the 2000s were marked by the boom and bust, right? And you remember this. You were 12 when the real estate market crashed.
Oh yeah, I have no. It didn't happen for my area. I don't remember it. No one talked about it. I learned about it in school.
Do you remember 9/11?
I have no memory of 9/11. I mean, I remember people talking about 9/11, but I was a child. I wasn't making.
I remember being in school for 9/11 and watching it happen.
See, this is what
and my
I
math
think is
teacher being like, "You have to turn the TV off."
Like, that's what's interesting is, like, you're old enough that, like, you actually remember 9/11.
Yeah.
Like, I have no memory of it whatsoever.
I could walk you back to the classroom that I was
That's
in.
amazing. I know. It's crazy. And then I just,
But I feel
got
like
nothing.
in the same way, it really impacted most people, the real estate boom and bust. And then
Yeah.
there was a lot of things that came out of like the 2007, 2008 real estate. I'm going to call it a change, right?
Yeah.
As real estate values were boosted like crazy, people were buying houses in January and selling them in September. It was just like totally nuts. They were getting so much more money. The turnover was insane.
Yeah.
And all these people that are like, I'm not going to buy because the interest rates and the prices are inflated and blah, 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 right? Mm-hmm. Even people that bought their family home in 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, and they overpaid for their value. Mm-hmm. They bought a family home. They didn't buy a house for a week.
Yeah.
And they still own that home and they're making a killing on it.
So my parents bought their house in 2006 and they paid 500 something thousand.
Where you guys just bought?
Where I just bought, yeah. And it's now like valued at like 800. So
easily.
I would say that like they didn't lose anything, even though
No.
they bought right before it crashed.
The
So it
people
worked
that
out
lost
fine.
were the people that gave up. And that's always like any stock market advisor. It's like you can't buy for a week or a
Yeah.
month. You have to buy for the long haul.
Right.
It's the same thing here. Where we saw like the buying frenzy in the early 2000s, we saw lower interest rates, 5%, 6%. There was a huge home ownership rise. Like there was a huge drive for people to want to buy houses. And then of course, like the market turned, which then led to the teens. By the end of the 2000s, we were kind of in the 300, 325, and maybe in certain areas, $250,000 median average. So then when we turned the corner into the 2010s, by the time we hit like 2013, 14, 15, we were right back to that same number.
Yeah.
The people that lost, surprise, surprise, or no surprise, depending on how you look at it, the people that lost were the ones that bought at the high point of the market and then sold in the coming years after, 2 and 3 and 4 years later. Yeah. But when I was in real estate in 2013, by 2017 and 18, we're talking like almost 10 years removed from the height of the market. I could almost tell you which property was bought in 2007. Like I could go into the history of the property and it's like, it didn't surprise me. I could just tell. Yeah. I don't know why. But it was very quick turnaround. It wasn't a huge loss. It didn't change their lives. The people that changed their lives are the ones that let it go.
Right. Exactly.
They got financed for the wrong reasons. These were no doc loans back in the 2000s.
I was gonna say the people who really lost out were the people who like had the problem that caused the market to crash, right?
Right.
Where
the
they
ones
couldn't
that like
pay
lied.
their insane, extravagant mortgages.
Or they had adjustable rate mortgages was a huge thing. Balloon payments where people would buy for
Ninja loans.
$1,700 interest only. And then 3 years later, it would go to like a balloon and they would have to pay it off and they couldn't refinance because they couldn't possibly qualify for a typical mortgage loan, right? They would only qualify $2,500, right? Like they were just overinflated.
And so like people now who say it's too hard to get qualified to buy a house, like, do you think there's like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, it's too hard to buy a house. It's like, really? Do you want to get approved for something you can't actually afford? Like, that doesn't make any sense. I don't understand.
You're asking the wrong person because my perspective is you have to do what you have to do to get where you want to go.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can't want to grow your equity. You can't want to grow your development. Like real estate is the most functional way for 95% of America to make a living, right? To retire, to make, growth in their assets. I mean, we're talking about people that are retiring now with $500,000. I'm like, what are you going to do?
Right.
Like, $500,000 is not going to carry you.
Are you kidding me? Like, you need so much more than that.
You're going to need to have like, I don't know. I read an article years ago that said the average American needs $1 million to retire. And that was years ago.
But
we're talking
2017,
2018.
Think about it. If you're making $200,000 a year and you retire and you're going to be making half of that, you need to have at least $100,000 a year for the rest of your life supplemental to the stipend. Like, it's in savings.
And that can be as an individual, that can be as a family,
that
can be as anyone. But the challenging one that I see is like $1 million a year for a family that makes $90,000.
Yeah.
Okay. $90,000 a year, $1 million a year literally helps you live for 10 years.
Right.
Right. And then you add on things like annuities and pensions and Social Security and these other things. But also remember, like rising health insurance costs, blah, 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 right?
Like, you're gonna need
and
more.
then you have people that say, yes, Mike, you're right. I need to invest in real estate because the rise, the recovery, the growth, all the other things, right? I recognize that I need to invest in real estate. You're like, all right, cool, perfect. Let's invest.
Yeah.
Christian. I'm not knocking it. I was just saying he's one of these people.
Yeah.
He recognizes the need.
He does.
So then he fails to keep focus on the need. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, yeah, I need to buy a house. But then it's like, oh, but I want.
But Goose is in town.
Oh, well, that's a whole different animal. Y'all,
How is he gonna afford
if you
a
haven't
house?
seen the 7 swans that create Goose, right? Like you're missing out.
Goose is in town.
Christian, I have you. You're here in our
love
hearts.
Christian.
Goose is the most important band in the world right now
Goose
in
is
Christian
the most
Olsen's
important
life.
thing in the world.
But I agree with you. It's things like that. It's I want these things. It's I want to have X or I want to have Y that actually creates the challenge that he misses the, oh, I'm doing this for an investment.
Right.
I'm doing this to create a life. I'm doing this for these reasons.
Saving money, etc.
And so we see so many people that get focused on, oh, it's too hard to buy.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I thought that you saw the value.
Right.
So the complication shouldn't actually hold weight. Like you shouldn't actually be like, oh, it's hard, I'm not going to do it. Yeah, so I think that's the challenge. I think that people get in their own way and they're like, oh, this limiting factor is preventing me from buying a house or this limiting. And when you look at one of the things that happened in the teens, the 2010s, one of the things that happened where there were so many people that were afraid of what they had seen, whether it was family member, friend, reading it in the book, magazine, whatever, they were afraid that if they bought a house, oh, they were going to lose everything.
Right, exactly.
It's like, well, the government put so many restrictions into place that actually made it more challenging to buy a house, which is what makes this.
It's a good thing because
but it's a good thing.
You don't want the market to crash. Like you want it to be hard to buy a house. That's my biggest challenge point that I have in talking to my friends about this is they're like, they made it too hard to buy a house. How are we ever going to afford it? And I'm like, do you want the market to crash again? Or
well,
what's happening?
Or the other piece of the puzzle, which is like, hey, as it becomes more and more unaffordable, it's also more and more challenging, which means you're giving up opportunity, which means you're losing out on equity that could have been yours, which means, think about it. It's so many things.
It is.
That you just need to do it. I don't know.
That's the biggest thing.
So as we came into the 2000s, right, the 2020s, right, that we call it the pandemic era, as we're still coming out of the pandemic, post-pandemic, as realtors will say, we were coming into the pandemic. 2019 was getting really, really aggressive, really, really busy. A lot of things were happening. There was the right opportunity for these people, the first-time home buyers that were trying to save their life savings to buy a house. And then the interest rates were pretty low. I remember we were approaching 4% again for the first time in a long time. And then the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
And then it was almost like people relapsed into fear. And so there were people in 2008 that bought a house that had success, grew their family, grew their life, and now they're selling their home 15 years later for, a killing. There were people in 2010, 11, 12 that were like, oh, let's jump on the opportunity and buy while the market is low. And then there were people in 2017 that were like, okay, enough, I'll buy a house. Yeah. And now 2020 happens and it just relapses the same exact oh my God, you can't possibly buy a house right now, right? Mm-hmm. And now 4 years later, we have people that have made a killing, created an opportunity for themselves. And there's other people sitting on the sidelines saying,
the rates are too high, it's too hard to buy.
Right. Blah, 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 blah,
It's
blah.
a bad time. It's terrible. Can you imagine buying a house right now?
And so we call the 2020s, right, the pandemic era, we call it the market tightness, the era of tightness. And it's because lenders are tightening up, the Fed is tightening up, the interest rates are tightening up, the prices are getting higher, it's more difficult to buy a house. Now they're talking about already today, the average homeowner in America has to be coming from a dual income household, which is crazy because now it's very, very challenging for a single income earner to afford the average home in America. I'm not saying for those of you that are single income earners that you can't do it.
Yeah, of course.
We just sold a house to a family with 3 kids on a single income.
Yeah.
And they are so amazing. But we're talking about averages, people.
Right.
So, I mean, as we're getting into, 7s and 6s, and some people are hoping to see 5 in the front of their interest rate sometime in the next 12 months. It's a whole different landscape than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, when I bought my first house, I got 3.625, and I took a 0.5% interest rate hike to get the program that I wanted. Mm-hmm. I could have gotten 3.125, and people are like, "Oh, you got a bad rate." Well, think about that today.
Fucking kidding. Yeah.
But okay, so if you buy today at 8%,
yeah.
What happens when the rates are 10?
Right.
You got a bad rate today.
Like, oh, you got a bad rate.
How about Justin Buonamo? How about we talk about Justin?
Yeah.
Right? Like, he bought at 9%. Mm-hmm. 9%. But look at what's gone on in his life, right? Family. They were married at the time, but they had a child. They're having another one.
Yeah.
They got a second dog. They've grown their life. They've grown their business. Justin stepped out and created a brand new business. And so literally changed his entire life because of the fear that everyone else has afforded him the opportunity to buy something that he could have never created 100%. Otherwise. And so for every one of your friends that are sitting out on the sidelines saying, "Oh, it's too challenging.
It's a terrible time to buy."
There's 15 other people that are jumping in.
Will buy.
That will then sell their house to your friends.
Right.
Right?
That's a really good way to put it.
And don't forget, in the end of our lives, when they're 47 and want to retire and travel the world, when they're 62 and they are eligible for, Social Security, when they're 70, bye-bye. Adios. Maybe she won't walk past the front window.
You couldn't. It's too tall.
Yeah, but I can't see her go out the front. Dun, dun, dun.
She departed. What happened?
She literally went through The Departed. Anyway, so there. See, told you.
She is. All right, she's fine.
When they go through their next life stage, whatever that might mean, they're going to be that much farther behind.
Right.
And so as I look at my life, man, I bought a house at 30. And that was the biggest financial mistake I've ever made. If you talk to a financial advisor, they'll tell you not investing into your 401k, or your retirement, or whatever. And I totally agree. I'm not disagreeing with you. That would have been better for my life. But buying a house at 30, I could have done it at 26. I could have done it at 24. I could have done it at whatever, right? And it would have just catapulted me that much farther along. And so all these people that are sitting on the sidelines, this is the post-pandemic era. This is the market tightness era. When the world is on fire, rich people buy real estate. So I guess it's a manifestation, right? You think the world is on fire. If you think that you're rich, you buy real estate.
There you go.
I don't know.
Oh my gosh. We'll see what the next 5 years brings.
Well, what's coming up in the next month? Let's talk about that. Yeah. There's so many things happening in the next month. We've got...
it's Christmas time.
Christmas time. We've got the Christmas parade going on right here in Hamden. The mayor's Christmas parade goes right down our street.
Come say hi to us. We're going to be outside giving out free hot chocolate. Free hot chocolate
for anybody that wants to stop by. We've also got, old time Christmas happening downtown in Fells Point. If you don't know Fells Point, I forget what they're calling it, the Fells Point neighborhood organization.
They do it, yeah.
They do so many things now. They're really trying to create more family-oriented community. They're shutting down a lot of the restaurants and bars. It's going away from being that nightlife scene. And they have the Fells Point Marketplace. They've got the Farmers Market, which operates throughout the summer. This is a winter event. They've got Fells Point Festival, which is an amazing event. Stop by Old Time Christmas December 7th. December 8th is the Mayor's Christmas Parade. The Nutcracker is being played at the festival, the Center for the Arts in Frederick.
There's a lot of Nutcrackers out there, but that's a good one.
Yeah, I was going to say there's another one here in Baltimore in Pikesville, I think it is.
I'm sure there is.
But I mean, there's so many things. And don't forget, for those of you that are, the Jewy flag, there's all kinds of things happening for Hanukkah at the same time. I should have looked up
Hanukkah events.
When
is Hanukkah this year?
Christmas.
Oh, yeah?
I think it's the first time that I ever remember it happening.
That's crazy.
So we get to celebrate Christmas morning. We get to celebrate Christmas, and Christmas night we get to light the Hanukkah candles.
There you go. Life's good all around.
Life is good. We're going to have a wonderful holiday season. If you guys need anything, of course, you know where to reach us. If you haven't already, hop onto our website and read about our blog under additional resources. You can always get to the blog. You can send me a direct message or a private message just to be like an old fart.
happening?
You're welcome. On Instagram or on Facebook at michael.frank____. Christian can be reached at Christian the Deadhead.
Soon to be renamed Christian the Goosehead.
Soon to be renamed the Goosey Head. And you guys can always reach Liv if you message me.
Yeah,
because
same.
Liv a lot won't really respond to you, but she will respond to you if you message me.
That's true.
So we'll talk to you guys real soon.
See ya.
What's up, guys? Thanks for watching. For more information on the housing market, Real Estate 101, how you can leverage your position in today's market, and so much more, click on the link below. If you like this video or have a burning real estate question you'd like us to answer, leave us a comment and let us know. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode, and we'll see you again real soon.